gender identity. The United Nations adopted the term gender identity from the Yoga Carta Principles on the application of international human rights law, which defines gender identity in the following way. Gender identity is understood to refer to each person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender, which may or may not correspond with the sex assigned from birth, including the personal sex of the body, which may involve, if freely chosen, modification of bodily appearance or function by medical, surgical, or other means, and other expressions of gender, including dress, speech, and mannerism. The UN is not merely complicit in female erasure, it is actively promulgating. Now, I will introduce our speakers. Women engaging in struggle against female erasure and working to protect women and girls while we still can. First, we have Amanda Stillman. Amanda Stillman is the USA Director for Keep Prison Single Sex, a UK-based international organization. Keep Prison Single Sex campaigns for the rights of women in prison, single-sex accommodation, and single-sex accommodation in prison. Keep Prison Single Sex also campaigns for data on authentic persons to be recorded by sex throughout the criminal justice. Thank you so much. Let's welcome Amanda.
My name is Amanda Stillman. I am the USA Director for Keep Prison Single Sex. The United Nations has historically recognized the significance of biological sex and the need for single-sex spaces. Since 1955, it has been a UN rule that incarcerated men and women were detained in separate spaces. In conflict with the UN for three-quarters of a century, single-sex spaces for women. Over the last decade, elements within the UN have engaged in increasingly aggressive modes.
Sorry guys, I'll get my camera nearer. One moment.
Legal gender recognition based on self-determination. Such enshrinement of gender identity in the law results in men being permitted to enter single-sex spaces such as domestic violence shelters, hospital wards, locker rooms, with no recourse to remove these men from women's spaces, no matter how dangerous this might be for women, no matter how uncomfortable it makes women, no matter how many women and girls are driven from these services or places which were set up for them. How about for women who have absolutely no ability to walk away? How about incarcerated women and girls? This is a unique horror. Despite the UN rule against mixed-sex prison housing, multiple countries, including the US, the UK, and Canada, have for years housed males in women's prison based on gender identity. These numbers are accelerating. Where men have opted into women's prison, incarcerated women have been forced to share shower and toilet facilities and sleeping quarters with men, including rapists and murderers. With self-declared gender identity, there is no requirement that men have a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria, that they take hormones, that they have genital surgery, that they not be convicted of sex crimes or violent crimes, that they not have sexual paraphilias. As one woman in prison in California put it, I have been incarcerated for nearly 18 years and I have never experienced something as crazy as this. Bringing men into women's facility is putting all women in danger. Even were there to be gatekeeping to block, say, male sexual offenders, that's not good enough. Women and girls have a right to privacy and intimate spaces away from men. All men, men of any kind. A 2021 UN-sanctioned report dismissed women's concerns in preserving single-sex spaces. It did so on multiple offensive bases, but none so revolting as that, quote, the claims appear to reproduce privileged and/or colonial bias. Keep in mind that in the United States, 86% of women in jail have experienced pre-incarceration sexual violence, and that the female prison population is disproportionately African American and Latina. The notion that it is privileged and racist to fight to keep men from self-selecting their way into what should be single-sex spaces is beyond absurd. The UN, while claiming to be looking out for the world's women, is actively encouraging steps to strip away existing protections for women and girls. We don't agree, we don't consent, we object, we say save single-sex spaces, we say protect women and girls.
Women say no! Women say no! Women say no! Women say no!
Next up, we'll be bringing up Kellie-Jay Minshall, aka Posey Parker herself. She is an activist for sex-based rights. She is the founder of Standing for Women, a global women's rights campaign group. She is a married mother of 4 and a free speech activist who first came into the public eye when interviewed under caution by the British police for speaking out about the transitioning of children on Twitter. The potential charges that she faced were nuisance, public order, malicious communications, and compounded with a potential hate crime. Join me in welcoming Posey Parker.
I have all of the microphones.
UK, women say no way! US to UK, women say no way! US to UK, women say no way!
Hi, thank you to all of the lovely women that surround me. I'm assured he's not an employee of the UN, that dog. And neither is the chap drilling. Apparently that's just a coincidence. So I think what's important, these wonderful, well-researched, well-documented, very reasonable demands of these women and the speeches that they'll make today, I'm going to be slightly contrasting and do something that I believe is a little bit typical. And that is to just speak really clearly that the reason the UN has done this is because some predatory, rather perverse men have infiltrated the UN and specifically infiltrated the UN women. And so when we talk about the UN women and we look at their council, it's not surprising to see the odd Adam's apple and very large man hands. Yes. They will have a female name. They will be definitely influencing policy because, as we know, when there is a man who calls himself a woman in a woman's space, women seem to be quiet. Women are told in no uncertain terms that if they defend women's rights against men who call themselves women, if they even talk about women as adult human females, as a single sex, they are told that they are bigoted and transphobic. And transphobic in the United States and the UK in 2022 means that you are not allowed to say women don't have penises. You are not allowed to say it is absolutely disgusting to be slicing off the breasts of 12-year-old girls in the name of gender identity. We have been told we've got this brand new language, transphobia. It simply means shut up, witch. Right. Be quiet. Stay silent about what is happening to women across the globe. And whilst in the United States and the UK, we are relatively privileged women, and maybe not so, but relatively privileged women, there are women that are already silent that now have this double silencing impact of not only never being able to talk about themselves. If we think about women in India, in Afghanistan, across the poorer countries in Africa, they already have not even got to the point of being able to discuss their rights, and now they never will. And so thank you very much for inviting me. It's a really important thing to do to protest against the UN, because the UN is not fit for purpose when it comes to defending the rights for women. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
As always, dear.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Isabella Malvin of Whose Body Is It? worker, life coach, and a former liberal feminist turned radical truth teller.
I probably ought to go.
In March
Do you want me to get a picture of you in
developed
front of the
a
UN with your
women's fertility
name?
education program.
Guys, if you
Such as menstruating human and uterus health. On the Whose Body Is This podcast, Isabella.
If you want to watch the rest of this, because I now have to go off to another event, if you people on YouTube want to watch the rest of this, you can go to Save Women's Sports. On Twitter, she'll have links at Save Women's Sports.
All right, Isabella!